We're going to pick up where we left off, and in this case we are going to be creating queries against our Oracle database. We can use either Visual Studio Code or SQL Developer, the full IDE. We're going to be using the HR connection to do this, and we'll be accessing our employees table. We're going to create a SQL file again. We're going to have comments to indicate which problem we're solving, and we're going to go ahead and get started. The very first thing that we want to do is, if we have our SQL Server database running, we want to stop that. We want to go ahead and start our Oracle database. That's our first step. Then we're going to go ahead and look at our problem that we want to solve, and that is to write a query to retrieve a distinct list of department ID values against the HR employees table. Only include rows that have a department ID value. Order the returned results in ascending order. So that's going to be our first statement that we tackle. We are going to make sure that we are on the SQL developer. So that's going to be the cylinder with the arrow. Once we do that, we're going to click on the connections, then go ahead and click on the HR. In my case, I did not save the password. If I wanted to go ahead and save it, if I just click off here, I can go ahead and update it. Using the pencil, it's going to bring back that, and I don't fat finger the password. I can go ahead and test it, set it passed, so I can go ahead and save it. And then if I bring this down, I should be able to go ahead and save it here. Now if I go ahead and click it, it's trying to connect, and now I'm connected. Now for my tables, I'm going to expand my employees. This is the one that I want to work against. I'm going to come up to the HR, do a right click, and open a SQL worksheet. This is what I'm going to be using to run my queries. Because I did it at the HR, it's going to be attached to that HR schema, and I do not need to precede any of the tables with HR. I can just type in employees. In this case, we are going to select from our employees table and get a department ID. But before we do that, we want to put in comments to indicate that this is our Oracle file. Then put in a comment that this is number 1, and then we can go ahead and start with our select. Now in this case, we are going to be using uppercase in order to be able to use the IntelliSense. In a lot of places, a lot of shops, they would actually use lowercase snake case for the table column names, and then they would use lowercase table names in order to differentiate between the keywords and the actual table columns and tables. But in our case, in order to be able to use the IntelliSense, we have to use uppercase. We're going to start with our department ID, and it's not showing up yet because we haven't specified a table. If we go ahead and say department ID, and then go ahead and say from, notice now we have our IntelliSense. That's going to be the first thing that we want to do. We want to execute this. Remember, we're doing this in baby steps. Make sure that we have this working before we proceed. We have our departments being returned, and we have lots of them. If we scroll through this list, at some point there should be a null value. I think I missed it here. So we have at least one null in the table. We want to make sure that we are only returning rows that have values. We want to ensure that we are not picking up that null record. We need to add a filter condition, and this is going to be where the department ID is not null. That's going to eliminate this guy right here. If we would look at 78, it shouldn't have that value anymore. If we go ahead and execute this, and if we would scroll down and see 78, I think we have to go up 1. Notice it doesn't have a null value there. So we've eliminated that row, and we have a new value being in its place. Now at this point, we also want to only have one department number. We have multiple 80s that we see right now. We only want to have one 80 returned. To do that, we're going to add the distinct keyword. So it's only going to bring back one of each department ID that's here. And if we execute that, then we can see that we just have 11 rows now that are being returned, and we have one of each. Notice that it appears that it is in order by the department ID, but we want to make sure that that's going to be the case because it's not a guarantee. So we need to put in our order by clause, and it indicated that it wanted it in ascending order. We could go ahead and do order by department ID and put in the ascending, or I can just go ahead and leave it off because it is the default for Oracle as well. I can go ahead and execute this query. That's going to be the results for our first statement. The next one that we want to do is to write a query to return the first 5 rows against the HR employees table. Return all columns as you would if the statement was being written for program code. So we have a little bit more to do. We're going to put in our comment. Then go ahead and do our select. I'm going to go ahead and put in my from right away so that I can get prompting from IntelliSense. We're going to add in our employee ID, then our first name, last name, email, phone number, hire date, job ID, salary, commission, manager ID, and finally our department ID. Now at this point, I want to go ahead and make sure that my query works. You should not see any red here. If I saw red, then I have a syntax error and I need to address that. Now we can see that we have a lot more data coming back. The next thing it wants us to do is to only return the first 5 rows. Now the first 5 rows, we're not ordering it. If I was doing this from a pre-Oracle 12c database, I would go ahead and do a where row num is less than, in this case we want 5 rows returned, so we would say 6. That would bring back 5 rows for us. We can see that we have 5 rows being returned. I'm going to go ahead and comment out that where clause, leave it in as reference, so to speak. We're going to do it using the Oracle post 12c. So after Oracle 12c and beyond, and we're running 21c, so we're way past 12c, this is going to be fetch first 5 rows only. If I go ahead and execute that, I can see the results coming back. This is the post 12c. This is prior to 12c, what we would have to do to get 5 rows returned for testing purposes. We're going to go ahead and advance on to our last one. This is going to be 3. If we look at our problem statement, this is write a query to return all rows against the HR employees table, return all columns, only include rows from the table that have a job ID value of PU_clerk or ST_clerk. Order the results in order by job ID, last name, first name. Now it doesn't tell us that we need to have the whole entire column list. It doesn't say for program code. In this case, we are going to just go ahead and do it easy and do the select star. This is going to be from employees, and we want to do a filter where it is 2 different values, either the job ID of PU_clerk or the value of ST_clerk. In this case, I have 2 different ways that I can do it. I can say where job ID equals, and then I can put in my single quotes PU_clerk, or I can say job ID equals ST_clerk. Now, the OR statement is something that you have to be careful with if you're going to be embedding things within a series of AND statements as well. Now, if I execute this statement, I should only see rows that have PU clerk or stclerk as the job ID. So that's what I want to do for sure, but I can do this in a little bit more short way of entering the values, and it's going to work exactly the same way. I'm going to comment this out. And this is going to be where I can use an in statement. I can go ahead and say where job ID in, and then give it a comma separated list of the values within parentheses, and this is going to be PU_clerk, comma ST_clerk. That should work essentially the very same way. We should get the same number of rows. We should get 25 returned as a result of this query. We see that we have 25 returned, and we can see that we have PU clerk and ST clerk. Now the last thing it wants us to do is it wants us to go ahead and order the results in job ID, comma, last name, comma, first name order. We just need to go ahead and add an order by, and this is going to be job ID, comma, last name, comma, first name. Now if we rerun this, we may see that the results are going to change order a little bit, but we should still have 25 rows being returned. That is essentially all we have for this walkthrough for Oracle. We can go ahead and save our file. This is going to still be File, Save As. Then we can go ahead and save it to a location. In this case, I'm going to call it M02L01 Oracle. And again, I need to change this because it's not PL SQL. It is going to be a SQL statement. So coming down, changing the file extension to SQL. And then I can go ahead and save it. Then I can go ahead and put those two files within a zip and submit it for this assignment. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.